Welcome to this portrait painting tutorial on Photoshop. Before you click away, this is the result from this horrendous sketch to a 3D hand-drawn head model. In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through my full painting process of how I achieved this result. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm starting this portrait by sketching the face. First, I'm drawing the oval for the head, and then I'm mapping out the eye area by drawing the brow ridge. I find drawing the eyebrow ridge line to be a better landmark than just a straight line because it emphasizes the three-dimensionality of the forehead. In the middle, I draw a triangular shape of the nose. I also prefer to map out the nose this way because I can perceive the planes of the nose as I go along to add more details on the nose. After that, I map out the eye socket where the eyeballs sit in the skull. And then from each side of the brow ridge, I draw vertical lines to define the forehead. Then add a slight indication of the cheekbones, defining the nose's bottom plane. Underneath the nose, I'm mapping out the outlines of the lips. Under the lips is where I add a slight circle while emphasizing the line underneath. That's where my chin will be. I use the chin as a landmark to start outlining both sides of the cheekbones and the jaw and connect it all to the chin. Now, I'm drawing the opening of the mouth and shaping the lips, adding both of the ears. Now that I have a good foundation, I'm starting to sketch out the features. I started by drawing the eyes, trying to keep them roughly symmetrical. The thing is, your characters don't need to be perfectly symmetrical. Most people's faces in real life don't achieve that level of symmetry. When sketching, I don't worry about details like that, as long as it looks clear to me, because the real pain is in the painting. We keep the suffering till that part. That's mostly my thought process when sketching. I keep fixing the eye till I get the result I want. Then I proceed by giving my character some eyebrows, defining their shape. Now, I'm adding more details to the nose. I keep on fixing and fixing till I get a somewhat of a good result. I'm finally giving her a neck so that she doesn't look like a head floating in the middle of nowhere. Giving her some clavicles, then I move to give her the most basic straight hairstyle. I start by mapping out the back of her head and the hairline from that, then I add the hair, so it looks more cohesive. And we got our basic sketch, and now we can move to the fun and the juicy part of this painting process. To start the painting process, I first fill the canvas with a gray tone is better than just painting on flat white. Then I fill in the silhouette of my character with a base color. If you haven't noticed yet, this is only going to be a black and white painting tutorial. I count on making one in the future with color, but I want to mostly focus on values and shadows rather than color in this video. Maybe I'll do a color-based tutorial in the future, so subscribe to my channel to not miss it out. Now I picked up a dark gray color, if not black. I'm adding some light shadow shapes around the eyes and the nose and use that same grayish color to fill out the lips. I picked up the airbrush and now I'm adding the blushes on the cheeks and forehead. I locked my layer, picked a bigger brush, then started adding lightly airbrush strokes on the right area of my portrait to indicate that this was where my shadow would be. Again, with the airbrush. The whole tutorial, we're gonna use the airbrush because I freaking love this brush. That's how I get some finishing on the skin. With a smaller sized brush, I'm incorporating some occlusion shadow around the face and the chin, on the hairline as well, filling in the eyes the same way and adding a shadow. Also, I'm adding shadow in the holes of the noses and the opening of the lips. Now what I do is I duplicate the sketch and add it as a clipping mask on the layer where I was painting. And now I'll continue painting on the clipping mask using the sketch as a base, and I turn my actual sketch invisible because we don't need it anymore. This is the part where I'm gonna start putting down my core shadow. Since the light is coming from the left, my shadows are on the right side. First, I'm adding the shadow cast on the cheek by the nose, then I'm shading the side plane of the jaw, then the cast shadow of the head on the neck. Before we continue, I need to introduce to you one of the most important concepts in painting, and that is shadow anatomy. So what is it? Here on the screen, I drew it for you. Hope it looks good. I know that most of us artists have seen this ball floating around here and there, but a lot of people don't know how this works. I'll explain to you each one of them in detail. First, we have the cast shadow, which is the shadow cast by the object that is exposed to the light. The light is coming from the left, so the ball refuges this particular area behind it so that the light doesn't attack it. Do you get what I mean? The same thing thing is for the nose. The nose is a protruding feature in the face, so depending on the light, it casts its shape on the face. The same for the forehead. If the light is coming from above, the forehead is protruding, so it casts its shadow on the eyes. Also, if you notice, the more the cast shadow dissipates away from the subject, the lighter it gets. The occlusion shadow is the darkest, almost black shadow that we see, since these areas tend to be tight and sheltered from the light. The shadow in these places tends to be the darkest. We can see this shadow occur in multiple places in the face. And quick tip, if you're doing linear, these areas is where the artists tend to thicken their lines. These occlusion shadows are what create depth in your pieces. Now the reflected lights, how do these occur? This area is in complete shadow, but these areas are not. So the light from the table reflects itself in the shadow and also reflects the color of the object with it. If you notice the environment around you, you can start noticing this phenomenon. Adding these kinds of details adds a realistic effect, which it feels as if your subject is part of your environment and it's interacting with it. The core shadow is the shadow that separates the shaded area from the light. Halftones are the gradient created as we slowly transition from the light to the shadow. Then we have the light and the highlight, which the highlight is the point in your object that is the closest to the light sources or picks up on it. Hope I was able to explain that the right way. Now time to go back and work on our portrait. I'm painting my core shadows and the shadows cast by the nose and the jaw. I'm also adding occlusion shadow between the face and the hair. The head will also cast a shadow on her, same as for the neck. Next, I'm adding the lights. To add the light, I'm picking up a white color. I start with the hair. Most of my light is coming from the top left area, so all of my light will indicate that direction. I'm adding the light on the forehead, expanding it slightly on the brow ridge, adding more light on the nose, the plane of the nose that is facing the light, then highlighting the cheekbone, and on the soft left side of the orbicularis oris. I know. Is this thing right here? Then add that light on the chin and jaw, while also improving the shadow shape cast by the cheekbone on the jaw. Now on the shaded side of the face, I lasso tool a triangular shape and paint light in the same direction. Now I'm adding an elongated light shape on the nose and the clavicle to make my portrait more interesting. I'm fixing things here and there till I'm satisfied with the result. So all of this work we've done so far was to define our light and shadows. Now we're gonna pick up an airbrush and freehand blend everything so we can achieve that soft look on the skin. My technique for blending with the airbrush is to pick up the already present color and blend it with the other values by creating a soft transition between all the values present using the airbrush. Using this technique, I blend the light on the cheekbone, the mouth area, and the chin and jaw. I'm adding some reflected light to the shadow on the forehead to make it more interesting and soften the shadow color. Since using only the airbrush will give us a muddy kind of shading, to counter that I use the lasso tool to define the hard edge and leave the other side more blended. That's how I add more structure to my blending. You can see that's how I applied the light on the face and the hair. Doing the same lasso tool plus airbrush technique on the light shape on the neck. When I want to paint with precision with the airbrush, I decrease the size of the brush so the airbrushed effect is minimal and use it to define the small details like the hair strands. I also define the eyebrows and continue adding more and more details while refining my rendering. Now, as you can see, when I want to add the shadow, I select the area I want to shade with the lasso tool and then use the airbrush to paint. The shadow shapes cast by the lips and nose. The occlusion shadow is darker, but as we move away, I lighten it with the airbrush. I'm blending the halftones all over the face with the smaller brush. Now moving to the neck, I select using the lasso tool, paint the occlusion shadow darker. Then as I move away to the hair, the lighter it gets. The shadow in the neck will be extended till the hair, cause it's the shade cast by the head on the shoulder, which the hair will pick it up since it's hiding the shoulder. Adding more shadow on the hair, defining the hairline with the lasso tool and adding the light. So now I'm selecting the side where the neck and the hair connect to add some sharp occlusion shadow to give the neck some depth. Well, guys, there's a pretty embarrassing mistake I made. During all this time, I haven't flipped my canvas. I'm gonna fix this right away with the magic of the liquify tool. Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot for this long. So now with the airbrush, I'm softening the lips, adding more details around the lips, then doing the same for the eyes. Now I kind of reached the final stages of rendering. Well, this stage took me an hour. It's sped up here. It's the same thing over and over again, adding more details and defining this refining that I'll keep the video playing. When we reach something more interesting, I'll get back to you guys. To pass the time and keep your short span TikTok brain engaged. Here are 5 random dad jokes I found. Tell me in the comments which one made you laugh. Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts, so... Okay, here's another. What do you call cheese that isn't yours? Nacho cheese. Haha. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Okay, that one is funny. What's brown and sticky? A stick. That one was meh. Why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use honeycombs. This one is my favorite. It's pretty funny. What do you think? Okay, now there is a little trick I did to make this portrait painting look a bit more dramatic, is that I selected the shadow areas duplicated on its own layer then. I went to Image, Adjustment, then Brightness and Contrast. With the slide, I decreased the brightness of the duplicated layer, and with the eraser, I came to soften the edges. Now with a little bit more rendering of the details of the features of the face, and working on the light and shadows even more, this is the result that I ended up with. Ta-da! What do you think? Anyway, hope this little tutorial has helped you so far and you learned something new. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content in the future, and see you in the next video. Bye!